What eventually disappeared without anyone noticing? Story 1. Longevity in careers. This is a big one nobody seems to have said. Longevity in careers has largely gone away. People used to get a job and, after being there for decades, reap the benefits of being seasoned employees. Higher salaries and better perks. Maybe it's because I work in the entertainment industry, but I feel that longevity in careers has gone away, meaning people can be an amazing person at the job, but after over 5 years, the employers start wondering if they could be doing better with a younger or cheaper candidate for the job. I understand if you ever want to move up in a workplace, they expect you to bring your A game, but 30 plus years of being incredible is hard. Some years will be better than others, and if employees don't have loyalty to their employees anymore, then it's likely the good employee will be fired or let go at some point. I feel like in recent decades, this has forced many people who normally wouldn't to switch careers. Can someone work successfully up the ladder at any job without having to shift to another company for a promotion? A combination of employers halting upward movement of their staff while they look for new employees to fill higher roles, and the fact that they get bored of their seasoned employees has largely killed the idea of anyone having a single career. I've worked at the same place for over 30 years, can't retire until I'm Medicare age, I'm 61. Effectively, I make less than I did when I started. What I should have done was job hopped every 5 years until I was 45, then stayed put. Loyalty does nothing, less than nothing. I've worked with the same hospital system for 19 years. We had a full pension when I started. Mine got whittled down because, at the time, I hadn't made it to 10 years. New employees get no pension. I moved to a hospital located 5 minutes from home. Raises have ranged from 0% to 5%. What keeps me coming back is that 5-minute commute. I'm afraid that they know this. Story 2. Automatic seatbelts. I think I'd heard that it was discovered that automatic seatbelts were more of a liability in an accident than regular seatbelts. My aunt is actually part of the reason they aren't around anymore. She was in a bad car accident where the car rolled several times. The door opened during the rolling, or at least separated enough to tell the sensor it was open, and off came her seatbelt in the middle of the accident. She spent months in the hospital, lots of surgeries, and still has issues 30 plus years later from the accident. It was so bad. They were a cool feature until they malfunctioned. At the time, car regulations required an active safety feature, but didn't specify that it had to be a certain one. Automatic seatbelts checked the box the same as airbags did, so some manufacturers went with airbags, and some went with automatic seatbelts. After a bit, people realized that airbags had a much bigger safety impact than switching from regular to automatic seatbelts, so airbags got regulated. At that point, manufacturers had no reason to make automatic seatbelts anymore and just stopped. They were more of a problem than a benefit. Their mechanism often jammed, and people didn't want to pay to have them fixed, which meant they wouldn't have the shoulder restraint. Or people would disconnect them because they were in the way and then never reconnect when driving, again leading to no shoulder restraint. Or people would assume the automatic shoulder belt was enough and not use the lap belt that went with it. Bottom line, they were intended to help make sure people used their seatbelt and just ended up making people not use the belts correctly and increased injuries. And they were more expensive to add to a car, so the manufacturers stopped using them. Story 3. I never see swarms of monarch butterflies anymore. Yep, I still have milkweed in my backyard, but I haven't seen a monarch in probably 5 years now. 20 years ago, my milkweed patch was butterfly central. My milkweed patch brings all the butterflies to the yard. I have a native pollinator garden and a whole section dedicated to milkweeds. I have at least 20, and they're all flowering right now. This year is the first in 3 we have actually seen any butterflies at all, and we have had only 3 monarchs come by all year. More hummingbirds than usual, but still not many butterflies. They will find you. Thank you for planting a native garden. They're wonderful, and the return is amazing. Good news, my neighbor and I both have milkweed and see hundreds of monarch every year, along with their little green pods with golden trim hanging from our doorways and roof eaves. We're in Oceanside, California. Same with lightning bugs. Used to see hundreds of them blinking at night. now it's only a handful at a time. I've been slowly cultivating my yard with native plants to attract pollinators, and at night my backyard dazzles more than it did when I was a kid. I know it won't make a difference in the grand scheme of things, but it still makes me happy to see it. They are endangered now. Lots of bugs will be in the coming years. It's gonna be bad. Had a bug splatter on my windshield recently, and it surprised me. When I was a kid, just in the 90s, bug guts were just a part of summer on the windshield. Kinda scary to think that in less than 30 years, the population will decline. I'm just an idiot on the internet, but it feels like the ecosystem is going to collapse at this rate. On long trips, we would pull into a gas station just to use the windshield cleaner next to the pump to clean them off. I've hit one bug that I've noticed this year. Part of this is the improvements to aerodynamics and the design of vehicles. Older vehicles, you're basically driving into a wall of air and pushing through it. With the aerodynamics, the air moves over and around the vehicle, resulting in less bug splatter. Story 4. Reddit Live was always funny to me when I was browsing Reddit on my Corn account. It would go something like this. Deplorable stuff, deplorable stuff, deplorable stuff, deplorable stuff. Some guy playing the ukulele. Deplorable stuff, deplorable stuff. People going on walks was a thing too. I used to watch a guy doing regular walks around Tokyo, even started doing it on YouTube, until he stopped doing it with barely a word. We were left under the impression he was going to come back, not that he was under any obligation or anything. I still wonder what happened to him. The point of view videos of people in other countries were super interesting. People walking around random cities were oddly calming. That gecko guy. That's gone? Wow, what was it? Reddit's poor attempt to break into YouTube's video market. It was live streaming, except that there was no real organization to the content, and it was just kind of shoved in our faces, so it didn't promote any of the specific interests that drive many subs here and many YouTube channels. It fizzled out pretty quickly, despite Reddit trying to force it into users' feeds. It turned into a Saturday morning routine for me, actually. There was always this one guy mixing house music at that time, and I'd put him on while my wife and I drank coffee, and our two little kids would dance around. His name was Whistleface, I think. He was really good. That guy slapped me. He would brighten my day every time. Long black hair, typically at the front of Reddit Live. He would play any instrument and take requests from the live stream. So talented. He played simply to raise money for the homeless. In public, he had a sign that said, "If you're homeless or in need, take as much as you want." A legend among humans. Story 5. Great memories of knowing I was getting Pokemon Blue for my 7th birthday and spending part of my vacation money on the Big Player's Guidebook. Me and my younger sister read it and talked about all the Pokemon we wanted to get the whole trip home. I recently told my husband about attending a birthday party at McDonald's when I was a kid, and it blew his mind. Do you remember that they used to have party rooms? Hell yeah, never had a McDonald's party, but I remember having a Burger King party one year in the late 80s. They provided a burger-shaped bounce house, and everyone got Happy Meals with extra toys. What a time to be alive. I'm honestly surprised it didn't happen sooner. McDonald's changed their branding so much over the last 15 years that I don't know if you'll even see the word McDonald's inside a McDonald's. Mom's going to McDonald's to have a coffee and let the kids run through the play place was such a staple of the 90s. My mom had 3 of us kids, and every year, doctor's appointments, dentist visits, etc., all got scheduled for all 3 at once to make it easier. We always stopped at McDonald's as a treat for lunch on those days, and looking back, it was absolutely so my mom could sit down and not worry about us for half an hour while feeding us cheaply and being able to let us run off the energy in an enclosed space. McDonald's has such a different vibe now. Story 6. Fireflies, aka lightning bugs. I live in a rural area, and I used to see hundreds on a warm summer night. Now I get excited if I just see one. I mentioned it to other people who live in the same area as I do, and they were just like, huh, yeah, you're right. Growing up in Los Angeles, I always thought they were movie fiction, until I moved to rural Georgia. The first time I saw one, my classmates thought I looked so adorable just gawking at them in total awe. It was like seeing a unicorn. When I was a teen, I was part of an American group that toured Europe for a month. We were from every state in the U.S. We met in Pennsylvania, and it was so funny seeing the Firefly folks rolling their eyes at everyone else losing their minds over them. I had never seen them before and thought they were amazing. Meanwhile, in Switzerland, everyone from the West was laughing at the kids losing their minds over mountains and snow. Same. The same goes with butterflies. My house is surrounded by nature, and I barely see any butterflies and fireflies anymore. Whenever I see one, I point it out like I'm a 4-year-old looking at something new for the first time. It's sad. Story 7. Somewhere along the way, 9 to 5 turned into 8 to 5. Yeah, growing up, all I heard was 9 to 5. And when I was an adult, it was like, what the frick is going on with the hours? My mom always worked 8 to 4 growing up, so it always confused me. Now I work 6 to 5 and it still confuses me. I'm in my 60s, and from the time I started working full-time, it was always 8 to 5 with an hour lunch. At some point, the hour of unpaid lunch became work at your desk. My company actually got rid of almost all the break room seating, so only about 5% could theoretically eat there other than their desk. I decided about 15 years ago that I was going to take a lunch break every day. I don't care that no one that I work with does, and everyone works through their lunch. Since day one at a new job, I will take a lunch break every day. The crazy thing is, once you establish that you do that, no one ever questions it or cares. Story 8. Someone answering the phone at businesses. Someone answering the phone, period. Tried to get a question answered recently from the permits department in my city. Guess everyone in the building, except for the operator, is allergic to the phone. I sometimes need to call certain people at my corporate office to ask questions or discuss certain matters that are a little too detailed to describe through email or Teams, so I would rather make a 90-second phone call instead of typing a message that takes half an hour and requires multiple responses. I've worked here for 7 years. There is a list of people that have never answered the phone in that time period. I have a vague thought that we have an HR department, but I have never once gotten them on the phone. Story 9. Custom ringtones. Obviously, I know some people have them, but we somehow went from virtually everyone having them to almost no one giving a care. My phone is on a permanent mute. Everyone I care about messages me. Important calls leave voicemails, and I'm not interested to be disturbed by scam calls. I'll raise you another, paying for different ringtones. I have a different ringtone, not that I ever hear it, phone is on vibrate always, but still. I think everybody learned over the years that having their favorite song, or a song they like, set as their ringtone is a surefire way to hate that song within weeks. The only proven, more effective way to quickly hate a song you once loved is to set it as your alarm sound. Story 10. Carrot Top. What even was that guy? I saw his show in Vegas about 5 years ago. It's not like we were huge fans or anything, but his tickets were cheap, and we wanted to see comedy. Laughed so hard, my sides and face muscles hurt the next day. Dude is quirky, but he puts on a pretty good show. He's still performing. He's been doing a regular show in Vegas for like 20 years. It's kind of crazy because you never hear about him unless you're in or near Vegas and see a billboard or a poster. I just saw Carrot Top do an interview recently because he was on the same plane as the Not Real lady. He was headed to Florida to perform. Story 11. Having many family photographs in homes. Not completely gone, but homes used to be plastered in them. The only times I really notice them is in the homes of older people. I think that has a lot to do with digital photography coming into play. The only person I've met who actually has prints in his house is my uncle, who's a semi-professional photographer. I've seen too many family photos on the walls are considered bad taste articles to think this is simply due to a change in media. I don't know why the zeitgeist changed. I think homes are less warm as a result, but I'm an old fart too. Story 12. TV bumpers. There used to be a little sequence between the show and commercials. Some of them were really interesting and creative. I think my generation remembers the wand IDs on the Disney Channel, where a Disney celeb would use a wand to make the logo. There were also bumpers that were public service announcements or other actual content. Edit. Yes, I watched that documentary on YouTube. It's amazing. Everyone goes to Defunct Land's channel and watches the one on the Disney Channel jingle. Just trust me, don't look up spoilers. I actually remember when TV programming would end for the whole night. Adult Swim is still notorious for their bumpers, though. Story 13. We are in the process of a full-size can of Arizona teas for 99 cents disappearing. I'm seeing a lot of places starting to carry the smaller plastic bottles for 99 cents or the larger plastic bottles for more. I'm honestly surprised that they've lasted for this long at the same price. The Chevron near me finally changed them from 99 cents to $1.79. It was a sad day. I agree, though. I've been buying the tall cans since the noughts. If I remember correctly, this is the retailer's fault, not Arizona's. They still sell with an MSRP of 99 cents, but price gouging has become so prevalent that it's hard to enforce anymore. Story 14. Video game manuals. I can still smell them, decades later. Cheat codes. I like them because they were basically a mini player's guide that helped you contextualize everything without giving too much away. Now that everything is digital, I don't see why they can't include them with the physical copy. Charge me $5 extra, I don't care. Story 15. The hole in the ozone. It's one of the only examples of the world eliminating something harming the environment. CFCs were banned worldwide as they were determined to be causing the hole, and the ozone layer recovered. Also, leaded gasoline. Interestingly enough, Thomas Midgley, the inventor, had a hand in introducing both, making him possibly one of the worst single-handed environmental disasters. He accidentally killed himself by another invention of his, a contraption to raise himself upright in bed after he was partially paralyzed by polio. Story 16. I don't know, I didn't notice. Reminds me of a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy quote. You know, said Arthur, it's at times like this when I'm trapped in a Vogan airlock with a man from Beetlejuice and about to die of asphyxiation in deep space that I really wish I'd listened to what my mother told me when I was young. Why? What did she tell you? I don't know, I didn't listen. New goal, reread the trilogy, all 5, before I go back to work, teaching. Story 17. Places children and teenagers can hang out without supervision. This should be higher. Any millennials or Gen X remember hanging out at the mall as teens? Yeah, a lot of malls and shopping centers that still exist in the US today don't allow that anymore. They now require everyone under 18 to be accompanied by someone over 21. Funny, those kids grew up to be like, that stuff I did as a kid isn't flying on my watch. Story 18. Lobster tanks in grocery stores. Not that I particularly want them back, but those are nostalgic AF. That was my entertainment while Mom shopped. Like a fish tank, but sadder. They still have one. I've watched a YouTube channel for over a year that features Leon the lobster in a home saltwater tank. He was rescued from a lobster tank in a grocery store. Story 19. I never really thought about it, but this is pretty genius advertising for kids. You don't have to have the best cereal anymore. You just have to have the best toy. Blood conditions and anemia probably aren't as prevalent now as they were then. Additionally, we know a lot more about hydration and food safety as well. Story 20. Sobe drinks. I used to love the strawberry daiquiri one. I wish they'd bring them back. So dang good. Plus, I got a cap one time that just said, "You're a lizard, Harry." And for some reason, those 4 words pop into my head way more often than anything I ever read in those books. Story 21. 3D TV. Curve TVs. I've really only seen it on monitors nowadays. My dad was an early adopter of the Curve TV, but he has it in a room with the most windows in the house. I hate that TV so much, there's no way to escape glare during the day. Story 22. Toys and cereal boxes. I would choose the cereal primarily on the toy. Story 23. Those plastic lanyards people used to braid and make. Shush, you, I can hear those freaking caboodle kits coming out of the closets as we speak. Don't remind them. Story 24. The fact that Caitlyn Jenner killed someone. More importantly, Caitlyn Jenner settled the vehicular manslaughter case and won Woman of the Year in the same year. Story 25. Reddit Live. Holy crap, you're right. Those guys playing guitar in that live show, I bet he's playing guitar on TikTok Live now. Story 26. Those coin-operated rocking horses you used to see in front of grocery stores. Myers still has them. Good old Sandy the one-penny pony. Story 27. Ringback tones or caller tunes, where you could assign a song to play when people called you instead of them hearing the ringing. Story 28. Privacy. The phrase mind your own business along with it. Story 29. Newspaper machines at random corners. Story 30. Saturday morning cartoons. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.